Part 8 of Chapter 7. It's a long one. "Come and get me," was all that he said. The blond man grinned. The bull-necked man lunged. And yes, even Mr. Dandy took several steps forward. Bod pushed his fingers as deeply as he could into the grass, and he pulled his lips back from his teeth, and he said 3 words in a language that was already ancient before the Indigo Man was born. Skach, thech, kavach. He opened the ghoul gate. The grave swung open like a trap door. In the deep hole below the door, Bod could see stars, a darkness filled with glimmering lights. The bullman, Mr. Tar, at the edge of the hole, could not stop and stumbled, surprised, into the darkness. Mr. Nimble jumped toward Bod, his arms extended, leaping over the hole. Bod watched as the man stopped in the air at the zenith of his spring and hung there for a moment before he was sucked through the ghoul gate down and down. Mr. Dandy stood at the edge of the ghoul gate, on a lip of stone, and looked down into the darkness beneath. Then he raised his eyes to Bod, and thin-lipped he smiled. "I don't know what you just did," said Mr. Dandy, "but it didn't work." He pulled his gloved hands out of his pocket, holding a gun pointed directly at Bod. "I should have just done this 13 years ago," said Mr. Dandy. "You can't trust other people. If it's important, you have to do it yourself." A desert wind came up from the open ghoul gate, hot and dry, with grit in it. Bod said, "There's a desert down there. If you look for water, you should find some. There's things to eat if you look hard, but don't antagonize the night gaunts. Avoid Ghoulheim. The ghouls might wipe your memories and make you into one of them, or they might wait until you've rotted down and then eat you. Either way, you can do better." The gun barrel did not waver. Mr. Dandy said, "Why are you telling me this?" Bod pointed across the graveyard. "Because of them," he said, and as he said it, as Mr. Dandy glanced away, only for a moment, Bod faded. Mr. Dandy's eyes flickered away and back, but Bod was no longer by the broken statue. From deep in the hole, something called, like the lonely wail of a night bird. Mr. Dandy looked around, his forehead a slash, his body a mass of indecision and rage. "Where are you?" he growled. "The deuce take you! Where are you?" He thought he heard a voice say, "Ghoul gates are made to be opened and then closed again. You can't leave them open. They want to close." The lip of the hole shuddered and shook. Mr. Dandy had been in an earthquake once, years before, in Bangladesh. It felt like that. The earth juddered, and Mr. Dandy fell. Would have fallen into the darkness, but he caught hold of the fallen headstone, threw his arms about it, and locked on. He did not know what was beneath him, only that he had no wish to find out. The earth shook, and he felt the headstone begin to shift beneath his weight. He looked up. The boy was there, looking down at him curiously. "I'm going to let the gate close now," he said. "I think if you keep holding on to that thing, it might close on you and crush you, or it might just absorb you and make you into part of the gate. I don't know, but I'm giving you a fair warning, a chance, more than you ever gave my family." A ragged judder. Mr. Dandy looked up into the boy's gray eyes, and he swore. Then he said, "You can't ever escape us. We're the jacks of all trades. We're everywhere. It's not over." "It is for you," said Bod. "The end of your people and all you stand for. Like your man in Egypt predicted, you didn't kill me. You were everywhere. Now it's all over." Then Bod smiled. "That's what Silas is doing, isn't it? That's where he is." Mr. Dandy's face confirmed everything that Bod had suspected. And what Mr. Dandy might have said to that, Bod would never know, because the man let go of the headstone and tumbled slowly down into the open ghoul gate. Bod said, "Weg, Cardos." The ghoul gate was a grave once again, nothing more. Something was tugging at his sleeve. Fortinbras Bartleby looked up at him. "Bod, the man by the chapel. He's going up the hill." The man Jack followed his nose. He had left the others, not least because the stink of Jack Dandy's cologne made finding anything subtler impossible. He could not find the boy by scent, not here. The boy smelled like the graveyard, but the girl smelled like her mother's house, like the dab of perfume she had touched to her neck before school that morning. She smelled like a victim, too, like fear sweat, thought Jack, like his quarry. And wherever she was, the boy would be too, sooner or later. His hand closed around the handle of his knife, and he walked up the hill. He was almost at the top of the hill when it occurred to him, a hunch he knew was a truth, that Jack Dandy and the rest of them were gone. Good, he thought. There's always room at the top. The man Jack's own rise through the order had slowed and stopped after he had failed to kill all of the Dorian family. It was as if he had no longer been trusted. Now, soon, everything would change. At the top of the hill, the man Jack lost the girl's scent. He knew she was near. He retraced his steps, almost casually, caught her perfume again about 50 feet away, beside a small mausoleum with a closed metal gateway. He pulled on the gate, and it swung wide. Her scent was strong now. He could smell that she was afraid. He pulled down the coffins one by one from their shelves and let them clatter onto the ground, shattering the old wood, spilling their contents onto the mausoleum floor. No, she was not hiding in any of these. Then where? He examined the wall, solid. He went down on his hands and knees, pulled the last coffin out, and reached back. His hand found an opening. "Scarlet," he called, trying to remember how he would have sounded, how he would have called her name when he was Mr. Frost, but he could not even find that part of himself any longer. He was the man Jack now, and that was all he was. On his hands and knees he crawled through the hole into the wall. When Scarlet heard the crashing noise from above, she made her way, carefully, down the steps, her left hand touching the wall, her right hand holding the little LED keyring, which cast just enough light to allow her to see where she was placing her feet. She made it to the bottom of the stone steps and edged back in the open chamber, her heart thumping. She was scared of nice Mr. Frost and his scarier friends, scared of this room and its memories, even if she were honest, a little afraid of Bod. He was no longer a quiet boy with a mystery, a link to her childhood. He was something different, something not quite human, she thought. I wonder what Mum's thinking right now. She'll be phoning Mr. Frost's house over and over to find out when I'm going to get back, she thought. If I get out of this alive, I'm going to force her to get me a phone. It's ridiculous. I'm the only person in my year who doesn't have her own phone, practically. She thought, I miss my Mum. She had not thought anyone human could move that silently through the dark, but a gloved hand closed upon her mouth, and a voice that was only barely recognizable as Mr. Frost said, without emotion, Do anything clever, do anything at all, and I will cut your throat. Nod if you understand me. Scarlet nodded. Bod saw the chaos on the floor of the Frobisher mausoleum, the fallen coffins with their contents scattered across the aisle. There were many Frobishers and Frobishers and several Pettifers, all in various states of upset and consternation. He is already down there, said Ephraim. Thank you, said Bod. He clambered through the hole into the inside of the hill and went down the stairs. Bod saw as the Dead See. He saw the steps, and he saw the chamber at the bottom, and when he got halfway down the steps, he saw the man Jack holding Scarlet. He had her arm twisted up behind her back and a large, wicked boning knife at her neck. The man Jack looked up in the darkness. Hello, boy, he said. Bod said nothing. He concentrated on his fade, took another step. You think I can't see you, said the man Jack, and you're right, I can't. Not really, but I can smell your fear, and I can hear you move, and hear you breathe. And now that I know about your clever vanishing trick, I can feel you. Say something now. Say it so I can hear it, or I start to cut little pieces out of the young lady. Do you understand me? Yes, said Bod, his voice echoing in the chamber room. I understand. Good, said Jack. Now come here. Let's have a little chat. Bod began to walk down the steps. He concentrated on the fear, on raising the level of panic in the room, of making the terror something tangible. Stop that, said the man Jack. Whatever it is you're doing, don't do it. Bod let it go. You think, said Jack, that you can do your little magics on me? Do you know what I am, boy? Bod said, You're a Jack. You killed my family, and you should have killed me. Jack raised an eyebrow. He said, I should have killed you. Oh, yes, the old man said that if you let me grow to adulthood, your order would be destroyed. I did, you failed, and you lost. My order goes back before Babylon. Nothing can harm it. They didn't tell you, did they? Bod was standing 5 paces from the man Jack. Those 4, they were the last of the Jacks. What was it? Krakow and Vancouver and Melbourne, all gone. Scarlet said, Please, Bod, make him let go of me. Don't worry, said Bod, with a calm he did not feel. He said to Jack, There's no point in hurting her. There's no point in killing me. Don't you understand? There isn't even an order of Jacks of all trades, not anymore. Jack nodded thoughtfully. If this is true, he said, and if I am now a Jack all alone, then I have an excellent reason for killing you both. Bod said nothing. Pride, said the man Jack. Pride in my work. Pride in finishing what I began. And then he said, What are you doing? Bod's hair prickled. He could feel a smoke tendril presence twining through the room. He said, It's not me. It's the Sleer. It guards the treasure that's buried here. Don't lie, Scarlet said. He's not lying. It's true. Jack said, True? Buried treasure? Don't make me... The Sleer guards the treasure for the master. Who said that? Asked the man Jack, looking around. You heard it, said Bod, puzzled. I heard it, said Jack. Yes. Scarlet said, I didn't hear anything. The man Jack said, What is this place, boy? Where are we? Before Bod could speak, the Sleer's voice spoke, echoing through the chamber. This is the place of the treasure. This is the place of power. This is where the Sleer guards and waits for its master to return. Bod said, Jack? The man Jack tilted his head to one side. He said, It's good to hear my name in your mouth, boy. If you'd used it before, I would have found you sooner. Jack, what was my real name? What did my family call me? Why should that matter to you now? Bod said, The Sleer told me to find my name. What was it? Jack said, Let me see. Was it Peter? Or Paul? Or Roderick? You look like a Roderick. Maybe you were a Stephen. He was playing with the boy. You might as well tell me, if you're going to kill me anyway, said Bod. Jack shrugged and nodded in the darkness, as if to say obviously. I want you to let the girl go, said Bod. Let Scarlet go. Jack peered into the darkness, then said, That's an altar stone, isn't it? I suppose so. And a knife and a cup and a brooch? He was smiling now. In the darkness, Bod could see it on his face. A strange, delighted smile that seemed out of place on that face. A smile of discovery and of understanding. Scarlet couldn't see anything but a blackness that sometimes erupted in flashes inside her eyeballs, but she could hear the delight in Jack's voice. The man Jack said, So, the brotherhood is over and the convocation is at an end. And yet, if there are no more Jacks of all trades but me, what does it matter? There can be a new brotherhood, more powerful than the last. Power, echoed the Sleer. This is perfect, said the man Jack. Look at us. We are in a place for which my people have hunted for thousands of years, with everything necessary for the ceremony waiting for us. It makes you believe in Providence, doesn't it? Or in the massed prayers of all the Jacks who have gone before us, that at our lowest ebb we are given this. Bod could feel the Sleer listening to Jack's words, could feel a low cerusus of excitement building in the chamber.